Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism back with another video for you today. Narholes. Image coming soon. Now, of course, you guys have heard of black holes. This week, in fact, we were blessed with the very first real image of a black hole. Take a look. Simply amazing scientific achievement. Now, I did try and go out and image a black hole myself. I got everything lined up. I was looking south from where I live in Central California, and so I gave it a shot. I tried to clear up the noise, turned my focus a bit, readjusted some knobs, and as I zoomed out, I realized I was only looking at Snoop Dogg smoking a blunt in Long Beach. So, it was a fail for me, but not a fail for the amazing team behind the Event Horizon Telescope project. Nope, they were able to do it, and the world stood in awe at the amazing achievement years in the making. And what a groundbreaking achievement it was. In an article at the Indian Express, one scientist put this photo into perspective by telling us that the history of science will be divided from the time before and after the image of the black hole. So I guess April 10th, 2019 will now be the zero date. Everything before that will be considered BBH, and everything after that will be ABH. Of course, before black hole and after black hole. So next year, April 10th, 2020 will actually be April 10th, 1 ABH. Yes, time henceforth will be divided by this most momentous occasion. Simply an amazing bit of science. Now, of course, it is impossible to take a photo of a black hole. This much should be clear. We see here in this article by astronomy.com and the title, "The Event Horizon Telescope may soon release first ever black hole image." And then they have this link on the right here that says, "Event Horizon Telescope releases first image of a black hole." But in the opening line of the article, it states quite plainly, no, you can't actually take a picture of a black hole. And so, obviously, taking a photo of something invisible is impossible, since it is impossible to see. Next, let's listen to a scientist who is actually involved in the imaging, who tells us, well, there's nothing to actually photograph. It's black and cannot be seen.
Seen the image is actually light that is produced by plasma around the black hole. It's true that we cannot see the black hole. It's black, so you cannot see it. It's true that we cannot see the black hole. It's black, so you cannot see it. Black, so you cannot see it. Black, so you cannot see it.
And of course, they can provide an image because the word image comes from the word imagination. So everyone knows what a black hole is. And now we have an image of this idea, this theory. What I want to discuss today is the latest in the many fantasies that people might conceptualize or imagine, and these are the highly debated narholes. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but their utter importance is paramount in today's science, and as of yet, we haven't been able to see them. Now, narholes were proven to exist when Sir Nathan Oakley theorized the concept and created the famous Oakley field equations, so their existence is fact, and the only thing left is to finally capture an image of one, which, after the Event Horizon Telescope findings, is now inevitable. Several scientists commented, one saying science fiction has become science fact, and a professor of theoretical physics saying we have transformed a mathematical concept into a physical object, end quote. So getting this image is truly our last step. What was once impossible is now finally not just possible, but inevitable. Because of the amazing work and the collaboration across multiple continents and involving hundreds of science's best minds, we now have the method, and it's simply brilliant. Now, narholes exist in Narnia, and the sheer distance that these holes are from Earth make many people think that they are unimportant or just fake mathematical concepts, but they couldn't be more wrong. Yes, the narhole that we are trying to image is 330 quintillion miles from Earth. Okay, that may be true, and while no telescope on Earth could ever take an image of a narhole at such a distance, but as technology forges ahead, so do we. So does the ability of science. Get this, we have now concocted a plan where we will have a setup, a network of 6 or 8 or even 10 telescopes, all set up in rooms across the Earth, all peering into the wardrobe simultaneously. By doing so, we have created a telescope the size of the Earth that will peer deeper and deeper into the wardrobe, past the local clusters and into the furthest reaches of Narnia ever conceived. Of course, this is conceptual right now, but with taxpayer funds spread across multiple countries combined, we anticipate that with only about $600 million, that by 2023, we can bring you an image of a narwhal that far surpasses the image quality, depth, and understanding realized by the Event Horizon Telescope Network. Now, questions may arise, like what exactly is a narwhal, and how does it work? Well, that's easy, but harder questions may follow, like how does this matter at all, and who cares? Or what difference does something make that is 330 quintillion miles away? Those are much more difficult to answer. How can we see something that allows no light to escape from it? Isn't this just a mathematical concept? How can a singularity exist in reality? Isn't that mathematics? Is the narwhal a sphere, or is it a hole? If it's a hole in what? Easy answers for those who simply pay attention and read a physics book. Physics. Shouldn't all physics talk about physical things, or can they just be concepts? Many people might think that to corral some animals, we need a physical fence or barrier. We cannot corral them with concepts, right? Wrong. That may be true here on Earth, but not in the Narniaverse. The further we gaze into Narnia, the more our regular physics breaks down. That's why the studying of narwhals is so important to the understanding of the vast Narniverse of Narnia. Sure, it doesn't make sense, and sure, these concepts transcend what our minds have evolved to understand. But to those gifted with 4 years of education beyond high school, they can use their gifted minds to stretch the boundaries of human understanding. Neil, tell us about our senses and how the Narniaverse doesn't owe you a damn thing.
Yeah, that's so what you learn when you study science in general, but astrophysics especially, that you no longer invoke your senses to judge what makes sense, or you no longer invoke your personal philosophies to judge what should be true. The universe is what it is, and it really doesn't care about your senses. Yeah.
Yes, when it comes to the Narniaverse, you no longer invoke your personal philosophies to judge what should be true. The Narniaverse is what it is, and it doesn't really care about your senses. So throw your senses out the window, throw logic to the curb, because the amazing nature of what lies beyond the wardrobe is what dreams are made of. So let's learn a little bit about narwhals, shall we? What exactly is a narwhal? Well, according to Einstein's theory of general narrativity, narwhals are uninhabitable chasms of space-time that end in a singularity, or a mass of infinite density. It's a place so bleak that even the laws of physics break down there. The gravitational forces of them are so strong that nothing, neither matter nor light, can escape once it gets too close. The particular narwhal that we are trying to image, that will only cost us a few $100 million to achieve, is about 6.5 billion solar masses. That's quite tiny in the cosmic view of things, of course, as our sun has a mass of 4 nonillion, 384 octillion, 989 septillion, 179 sextillion, 999 quintillion, 999 quadrillion, 500 trillion pounds. So simply multiply that by 6.5 billion to see the mass of the narwhal, which stands at 28 duodecillion pounds. And its size has also been determined, and it comes in at a massive 23 billion miles across. Yes, just this little white scale marker here is 23 billion miles across. And with Earth being 8,000 miles in diameter, you could fit 2,875,000 Earths side by side in this little area marked. Breathtaking science going on here. Oh, and I may have not mentioned that this particular narwhal spins clockwise. Another question we scientists get a lot is, how many narwhals exist in the Narniaverse? Well, according to estimates, there are about 100 million narwhals, but that's only in our Aslan galaxy. And do not dare forget that there are over 100 billion other galaxies in the Narniaverse. Another question we get is, why has technology taken so long to achieve this first image? Well, if you recall, we discussed this. A single telescope on our measly little speck of dust is, of course, not powerful enough to peer that far into the wardrobe. But now technology has caught up with our imaginations. We can link our imagination tubes, better known as telescopes, together. By capturing radio waves from the narwhal in separate imagination tubes, granted these are multi-million-dollar tubes, You can't afford one, but your taxes combined with those from other countries create the network. Once linked, this data is processed through computers, and when combined, we hope to very soon capture the very first image of a narwhal. Someone else may ask, well, what can happen to planets which are near the narwhal? Well, now come on guys, some of these questions have only theoretical answers, but what is likely is that you will be crushed by the gravity of the narwhal. Well, then what would happen if a planet was to orbit the narwhal, and it was far enough away to escape its gravitational pull? Well, it is expected that despite the size of the narwhal, an orbiting planet is likely to circumnavigate it within a week, and that particular planet would be traveling at the speed of light. And then the question on many an inquiring mind, what would happen to an individual who gets swallowed by a narwhal? This is where the science becomes obvious. According to Einstein's narrativity, if a narwhal swallows a person, their chances of survival are practically nil. They would first be torn apart by the narwhal tidal forces, a process called spaghettiification. Don't laugh. This is real science. Spaghettiification, and if that's not scientific enough for you, it's also referred to as the noodle effect. You see, eventually the person will reach the gravitational singularity, where the gravitational field becomes infinitely strong. At this point, one will be crushed into an infinite density. Unfortunately for us, general narrativity provides no basis for working out what happens next. You see, when you reach the singularity in general narrativity, physics just stops. The equations break down. Unfortunately, those are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. But don't laugh at spaghettiification. It is not a laughing matter. It's real. It's science and it's fact. Here's the Wikipedia for spaghettiification. So you know it isn't fake. It's real. It's science and it is fact. In this article, we can see that the image is mind-blowing in its own right. But even more significant is the trail that the new results will likely blaze. Peter Gallison, a Harvard physics professor, compared the narwhal's potential impact to that of drawings made by English scientist Robert Hooke in the 1600s, which showed people what insects and plants look like through a microscope. Simply groundbreaking. Now, I could go on and I could read the Wikipedia for black holes and simply replace it with narwhals to show the ridiculousness of both. But truly, both are ridiculous. Folks, black holes like narwhals don't exist. Period. End of fantasy book. End of fairy tale. End of the fiction section of this imagination sector. Truly, the world is in a sad state of affairs, as I could go on, and even just replacing black holes with narwhals and universe with Narniaverse, people still won't get it. That the premise, the conception, the entire idea and thought behind it are all Fantasyland. There are no narwhals, and there are no black holes. They exist in the mind of those who choose to believe in them. Now, I don't mean to go off on a rant here, but let's get serious. Who believes in this nonsense? Black holes and narwhals are nothing but make-believe garbage, concocted in the minds of theoretical physicists and mathematicians whose sole purpose is to recruit you to their religious fantasies, whose basis is so far from reality it might as well describe Narnia, a place based in pure fantasy. No different than space, where fantasy rules and only those who agree to its premise may discuss its absurdities. A place so far from reality, things like concepts take center stage. The concept of a field, the concept of space-time, the pure fictional idea that the field of space-time can be bent, folded, and even have a hole in it. Not just any old hole, nope, a hole that reduces all who enter it to an infinite density. How much beyond imagination can one belief go? You're free to believe in Narnia all that you want. You are free to believe in the bendable fabric of space-time. If we fold the space-time, we can actually create wormholes that bypass time and space and will eventually allow us to travel back and forth through time itself. So believe in Narnia. Go right ahead. Explain it to me in every way possible. Show me the equations involved and the math that proves it all. Teach me the process to get there, the mathematics involved, all of the brilliant formulas, and teach little boys to yell loudly,
"Math is reality."
And some may actually believe it. You can explain exactly where the wardrobe is and what speed someone needs to be traveling to enter the wardrobe. Teach me all about the angles needed and the temperatures that might be encountered. Teach me about returning from said fantasy land and how my craft will need to be wrapped in an amazing gold foil to withstand the heat. Teach this nonsense to children too young to comprehend, but teach them anyway, so that the fantasy can be embedded into their little brains and become part of their heavily protected belief system. Show us all, photo upon photo, computer simulation after simulation, video upon video, put together by your science storytellers, and swear that they have to be real. Have fun and enjoy your belief in magical conceptions. Good old conceptions. Ideas, thoughts, theories, math, numbers, all of it conceptions. Teaching the world that 1 + 1 = 2, and so therefore the fabric of space-time, a concept in and of itself, must be true and real, because it's built upon the same math that says 1 + 1 = 2. So it must be proven science. Its equations say so. Complete and total nonsense. Black holes, hilarious mathematical trickery and deception at its finest. Truly, Narnia is a fantastic place, and as a free-thinking human being, you are free to believe in it all that you want. It doesn't make it true at all. Anyone can make observations, and it doesn't mean you understand or are correct in your guesses about what you are observing. How can science tell us the truth? Whose truth is it? The biased individuals doing the tests? What if they arrive at different conclusions? What if there are many opinions? You get to decide? With what? Consensus? Whoever has more believers means their version of the truth is true? Give me a frickin' break. I mean, do you accept the Einstein field theory that there is a fabric of space-time, a rigid, bendable fabric that is physical but consists of nothing other than mathematicians' concepts? Why would you believe in a black hole? Do you simply believe and trust in this conceptual mathematical idea because all the smartest men and women in the world can't be wrong? Well, you believe in Narnia. You argue on behalf of what lies behind the wardrobe. Because some men read about it in college and then teach Narnia to others and proclaim truth? The problem is that they have cheated and introduced some words like truth and fact, proof, evidence, theory, and law, all agreed upon, right? That's exactly what they have taught you to think. You see, the very reason they invoke these words is to confuse you to a point where you no longer feel comfortable challenging the truths that they have decided on. Using their conceptions and their formulas, the world sits back in awe today of the masterminds who used 8 telescopes combined to make a giant Earth-sized scope and have peered 330 quintillion miles to gather the first image of a black hole. They are winning the battle of convincing you that they know the age of the Earth and how it was formed, that they know how life began and exactly what took place 10 to the negative 43 seconds after the Big Bang. That's a 1/10 of a 1,000th of a millionth of a billionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second after the Big Bang. Man, I wish that I made that up, but actually, that's what these learned men think that they know. They even know the temperature at that time. Don't ask them what the thermometer that measured 2 million degrees was made of, because your answer will be a mathematical formula. Nothing could be further from reality than that. They don't know what happened 1,000 years ago, let alone 14.5 billion years ago. Who could rival these, the greatest charlatans in the history of the world? You and I are not allowed to even question the 330 quadrillion mile observation until we too have raped taxpayers to fund a ridiculous telescope that does nothing but paint pictures, tell stories, and collect money that allow your ridiculous religious beliefs to have any hint of reality or believability. Magical, folks. Truly magical. Narnia. Truly Narnia. Well, I say Narnia is bullshit. Pure, unadulterated nonsense. And I say black holes and the region they are said to exist in are not far behind. Theoretical fiction at the very best. The fabric of the Narniaverse bends, causing mass to attract mass, is no more nonsense than the fabric of space-time, bending to produce the same results. And yet, one of these absurd ideas is actually considered scientific. The sad reality of Narnia when it is believed by the masses. They haven't observed a black hole any more than I have observed a lion in Narnia. So take your peer review, your biased witnesses and experts, and go try to find some other new recruits because it stopped working on me just a few years ago. I don't care how many pictures of Narnia you create or fabricate or conjure up. Don't care what your simulations show. If your job is to make me a believer, you have failed miserably. And to the listener, do you believe in Narnia? Do you accept the Narniaverse? Will you bow to the image of a narwhal when it arrives? They are recruiting you to their religion. And this fraud image of a mathematical concept is all part of their vast recruitment program. No different than a preacher who attempts to impose his worldview on you so that you too can join his religious sect. We have been brainwashed into believing science is something that it is not. Black holes and narwhals are fantasies, and ridiculous ones at that. You may have convinced the world, but I for one am not convinced. Narnia is fake. No more fake than the space that you have taught us. Doesn't matter how many images you create, how much data you compile, how many computers you train with your hypothetical universal laws, or your own self-deluded brilliance. Narnia is fiction, just like your ever-expanding vacuum of space, your trillions of miles, your sextillion other suns, and everything else that you've built around the false premise of a floating, spinning, and orbiting space rock upon which we live, never noticing a thing. It's all just Narnia to me, and others. That number will continue to grow day by day. Of course, that's just my opinion. You can take it or leave it. As I always say, don't trust me. Believe whatever you want. I'm just some guy at my desk making videos. I'm not some guy claiming he knows what took place 1/10 of a thousandth of a millionth of a billionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second after the creation of the world. Okay? Only a master at deception or a self-deluded fool with an ego the size of a narwhal would ever try to claim that he has that knowledge. Support this channel if you can and want. Links are in the description, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it and click the like button, subscribe for more videos like this, and if you click the notification bell, you will know exactly when I post a new video. As always, I remind you to do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Till next time, this has been Jeranism. Long live the Narniaverse.